Okay, class, we're going to go over creating circles in this YouTube video. Before I do, let me do a quick correction on the previous video, parallel curves. So on our last video, parallel curves, went all the way down to the bottom, and I talked about smoothing, right? Even though I smoothed the curve, I was supposed to do a parallel and then smooth it. Okay, so I'm just going to open up that file again from scratch. So once again, we're going to take this curve, which is not clean because of the dots. Those white dots tells us it's not nice and smooth. So when we create our parallel curve, it's going to also take with it all these little imperfections. So our goal is to smooth it out, as shown on the left. Okay, so once again, let's open it. Okay, let me just change the color of the surface. It's easier to see with the dark color. Oh, I only did one patch. Let me hit Control Z, undo. So I only selected a patch. I should select the entire surface from here. Properties. And let's make it a dark color. Okay, we'll take the line, the intersect. So again, the intersection is due to the intersection between the surface and this plane. Okay, it's hard to see the intersection. Let me also change the color on that. Okay, so we're going to take this existing intersection, and again, it's imperfect because the surface is made up of patches, and this surface is not smooth, right? It's not a smooth surface. So after you intersect with the plane, it creates a curve that's not smooth. Okay, so we're going to do a parallel of this line using the surface as our support. Okay, so and let's hit OK and see what we get. And see, we get a curve that now has a bunch of little white dots letting us know that it's not perfectly smooth in those areas. Okay, so if we go back to parallel, and say, hey, I want to smooth this out. Okay, so I can go curvature, and I can go 3D smoothing, meaning that the curve will slightly lift off the surface to accomplish that smoothness. Okay, so it does give us that option to say, hey, we'll smooth it out for you in 3D, meaning it's going to come off of the surface just slightly by 0.001 millimeters. You can change this if you like. If you want to make it smoother, but it may have to lift off the surface even further out, I can say, hey, I want to go as far as 0.1 off of the surface in those areas where you see the white dots. Okay, so I'm going to go with curvature continuity and hit OK. See how it smooths it out? There's no more white dots. The dots are gone. Now in those areas where we did have the dots, again, the curve is slightly lifting off to accomplish a nice, smooth, clean curve. Okay. All right, so now let's move on to circles. All right, so creating circles. Okay, let's go ahead and download the circles part file. All right, so once again, we have some ugly surfaces here, right? It's okay. Let's make them both dark. So let me right click center graph. There it is. That's an extrude. And we'll be creating extrudes in our next class session. All right, so I'm going to change that to a non-bright color. Let's see if tan works. Yeah, it's a lot easier on the eye, as you can see. All right. And again, whoever created this tutorial used the geometry in the background to create it. So we may need to unhide some of this geometry. So if you're working yourself through the tutorial on your own, and hey, I don't see the geometry, chances are it's somewhere in the background in the no show layer. Okay, let's go back to the show layer. Anything that's grayed out, even these geosets are grayed out, so all these are turned off. these geosets are turned off. So anything inside these geosets are in the no-show layer. I shouldn't say they're turned off, but they're hidden. You can tell because they're grayed out. All right, so let's go ahead and insert our own geoset. Okay, we want to drop it below this one. See how this one's underlined? So if I create a new geoset, it'll place it about right in between these two geosets. So let me first define this one. Right-click Define. So the new geoset will drop below it. So let's insert our own geoset. And once again, I'll change the colors. So some of you are probably already experts in changing colors. Again, that's optional. I encourage you to do it so you get comfortable with it. Okay, so let's go ahead and create circles. Okay, so let's follow the tutorial. Okay, so we're going to use a center radius first. Okay, to create our circle. So we're going to use the circle command. We're going to create a circle on this surface using that point that's on that surface. And we're going to use a radius of 20. Okay. And again, if you want to try different numbers, if you want to work with inches, go for it. I'm just going to give you credit. I'm going to give you the full credit for using the command, right, in these tutorials. If you deviate from the tutorial, it's okay. You'll still get the full credit, even if you only do part of the tutorial. I just want to get you familiar with all the commands. All right, so let's go ahead and create that circle with 20 millimeter radius. Okay, so let's draw a circle at that point and on this surface. All right, so here's the circle command. Circle. So we're going to go center and radius. So go to the drop down, center and radius. And again, you may want to lock it so you don't accidentally leave this option. So sometimes, depending on what you click, sometimes you misclick and it thinks you're trying to do something else and it'll jump to the next option. So I'm going to go center radius and I'll lock this option. All right, so we're going to pick our center. There's our center. And we're going to pick our support surface. And we can already see the circle. All right, I'm going to go with 20 millimeters. Whoa, that's small compared to preview. Yeah, that is small, right? We can make it larger by pulling on the green arrow. I'm going to just deviate from the tutorial. Okay, maybe it was 120. Type in 120. All right. So let me double click back on the circle. And we can see radius 120. If you want to type in diameter, you can always click on the radius button and it'll turn it into a diameter 120, right? Click on it again, turn it back to radius. If you don't want to do a complete circle, you can always click on the arc option. See, arc. So even though this is the circle command, you can also create arcs and you can change the angle of your arc. So you can see, you can pull on the arrows. To change the angle, you can pull on the radius to increase the radius, right? Or decrease it. Okay, so you can do a partial arc. You can type in your angles to define your arc. Or you can just go, hey, I want a complete circle. And it'll give you the complete circle. All right, so that's center and radius. And okay, pretty simple. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, so we already went through this. We can go with the circle or we can go with an arc, right? We have the arc option. You can type in your angles for your sector. You can pick a plane for your support or a surface, right? It can even be a curved surface, right? So it'll take the circle and curve it along a surface if you do pick a curved surface. Okay, so now we're going to create a circle using 2 points and a radius. Okay, so 2 points and a radius. So that's the next option. So we may need to unhide some of the geometry. So we're going to use points to define our arc and type in a radius. Okay, so let's go back to the tutorial. And let's see, where are those 2 points? So we did center and radius. There's also center and point. Let me show that one. Oh, there they are. Okay, so let me hide the other ones. I'm going to hide the other ones to avoid confusion. Let me hide this one. Okay, so we're going to work on 2 points and radius. Let's first go to center and point. So I missed that, center and point. So here we have a plane. Let me change the color. Okay, so I right click, show me, right? I want to see the center and point option. And there's actually 2 points here that are very difficult to see. Let me change the properties on those. Okay, so all right, so let's go ahead and create a circle using center and point. Okay, center and point. Okay, so we have 2 points. One of them is going to be the center, and the other one will define our radius. Okay, so we're going to pick a center. Doesn't matter which one. I'm going to deviate slightly from the tutorial or ignore it. So I'll just pick any point. So I'll pick that as my center. And the second point will define my radius. So whatever the distance is between the 2 points, that will define my radius. And now I need a support. So the support is the plane. And there it is. So it's already given us a preview. So this is our center point, and this is our secondary point, which will define our radius. So we're not typing in a length for the radius. It's calculating it based on the distance between the 2 points. And it'll generate the circle once you picked your support, which is the plane. And okay, there it is. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Let me hide this one. Go to the next geoset, right click, show me, 2 points and radius. Where is that one? Okay, there it is, 2 points and radius. Again, some ugly colors here. Oh, I hit by mistake. Let me Control Z to undo, or I can hit undo. I accidentally hit the plane. Let's change the properties once again. And yes, there are 2 points there. Let's take these 2 points and properties and change them. Okay, so we're going to use 2 points and a radius. So this time we're not going to identify a center point. This time we'll pick 2 points and give it a number for the radius. Okay, so we're going to use circle command once again. Okay, so we're going to go with the third option, 2 points and a radius. Okay, so we're going to pick our 2 points. Let me zoom in a little bit. Pick our 2 points. And we're going to pick our support, the green plane. And it already has a radius, 100 for default. I think it remembers the previous one, or I may be wrong, but there's our radius. If you want to change it, we can increase it, right? So as you can see, it's telling us, hey, there's 2 options. You can either go, again, there's these 2 points that we selected. So the circle is going to intersect the 2 points we selected, right? So point 1, point 2. So we're going to define our circle using 2 points and a radius. There's the 2 points. And here's the radius, right? But there can be 2 different results, right? So it's asking me, which one do you want? Do you want the lower one, which is in orange? If you don't like that one, go to the next solution. Okay. Okay, so once again, our circle is going through the 2 defined points, and we type in a radius and we select our support, which is the plane. If you like the top one, if that's what you want, then hit OK. Again, you can use the green arrows to increase the radius, as you can see. If you don't like that one, you want to keep the lower one, select the lower one. It'll highlight it in orange and hit OK. Okay, so once again, the circle goes through the 2 points. It's on the plane, and we define the radius, right? By typing in 100 or whichever number we chose. All right, so let's hide this one now. Go on to 3 points. Okay, there's the 3 points. There's the surface. Okay. Here are the 3 points. So I'm holding on to the control key while I select the 3 points. I can also select them from here. It's probably easier if I select them from the tree. So here are these 3 points that are hard to see. I'm going to right click properties. So you guys should be properties experts by now, right? Okay, so we have our 3 points. Let me make the surface darker. Right click properties. Okay, there it is. That's a lot cleaner. Okay, so we're going to create a circle that intersects all 3 points. All right, so if we go to the tutorial, saying, hey, we're going to define our circle that intersects 3 points. The 3 points cannot be collinear, meaning that all 3 are going along the same imaginary line, right? So the 3 points are not collinear, right? They don't create a line. All right, so let's define it using 3 points. All right, so let's use the circle command again. And this time we're going to drop down to 3 points. And let's select our 3 points. 1, 2, and 3 points. And there's our circle, right? I'm going to hit OK. You can see we have our circle. It intersects the 3 points. So we didn't have to type in a radius. We didn't have to give it a support, like a plane, for example. Okay, so 3 points is enough to define a circle, and it'll calculate the radius on its own. If you want to know what the radius is, you can always use your measuring tools, right? Something you learned in CAN 31. Take a measurement. Radius is 119.459 millimeters, right? Okay, now we can also use a surface as our support. So let's go back to this circle, double click on it, and we're going to pick a support. Okay, I want to put my geometry on a support, so select that option. Click in the support window, and let's pick a surface, the surface, and see how it projects it onto the surface. Oh, that's pretty cool. So we're doing 2 commands in one. That's really what's happening. We're using the circle command and projecting normal to the surface. That's pretty cool. And OK. There it is. So you create a circle and it projects it onto the surface. Let's go back to that circle. We can also go with arc, right? Okay, so we pick arc. So the arc created by the 3 points. I can go back and say, you know what, I want the opposite side. I can say, hey, I want the complementary arc, right? It just falls off the surface. Surprised it's not giving me a error. Oh, there's the error. So this arc is falling off the surface. So hey, you want to keep both or just part of it? Keep both. And OK. And even though it's 2 separate curves, it sees it as one entity, as you can see. It doesn't see it as 2 separate entities. It's one entity, even though they are broken up, even though they're not connecting. Okay, so I think that's it for this one, for 3 points. Let's move on to the next one. I'm going to hide it, go to center and axis. Okay, so there's center and axis. Hard to see once again. Okay, so let me change that axis. Hard to see that dark blue. Let me go to green. And there's that point. Right click properties. And I'm going to go over to yellow and locked. Okay, so for this part of the tutorial, center and axis, right? We have the green axis and the yellow point. All right, so let's move down to center and axis. Okay, so we're going to use the axis as our center, or our axis line for the circle, and we're going to use a point. Okay, so let's go to center and axis. Okay, so let's go to circle command. Once again, circle command. And we're going to go down to center and axis. Okay, so what's the axis line? The green line is our axis. And our point, okay, this is going to be a little bit confusing. We're going to pick this point. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not the center? Even though we're using the center and axis. So what's happening here, it's projecting the line, my mistake, the point that we selected onto the axis. So the shortest distance, right? Which happens to be perpendicular. So it's the shortest distance. So that's what it's doing, is projecting this point onto the axis, and that's our center. Okay, let me rotate slightly so you can see that it lines up. So this point projects directly onto the axis to define our center point. All right, so yeah, it's doing a few commands in one, which is pretty cool. It can be confusing, but you gotta admire these little quick shortcuts that you can do in CATIA. Okay, so let's go with the complete circle. And okay. So again, even though we don't see the point, the center point, what it did, it projected this point onto this curve. So if we go to project, which we are already familiar on, did I say that correctly? We're already familiar with the projection. Let me go ahead and use it, projection. I should say we're familiar with. Okay, so we're going to project this dot, or this point, onto the green axis and hit OK. And you can see that it did use that point as a reference. So it projects it onto the axis. If I was to create a line, you can see that's the shortest distance between the point, our reference point, and the axis line. So that's what it did. It doesn't show us that it projected it using the shortest distance and using that projection as our center point. It doesn't show it. It's a shortcut. Yeah, it's cool that it does the shortcut, but sometimes it's confusing because you don't see what it's doing. All right, so there it is. Let's move on to the next one. Let me go ahead and make these lines a little bit thicker, just in case it's hard to see in the video. All right, so let's turn this off. Let's move on to the next one. Bitangent and radius. Bitangent and radius. So where did that one go? It's this one. Okay, so here we go. Bitangent and radius. Let me change the color of the surface. Open this up. And let's make it dark. Okay, and then we have a point on there. By the way, see this red lightning bolt? It's hard to see. Anytime you see a red lightning bolt on a surface, a point, or any geometry, any curves, planes, etc. Anytime you see a red lightning bolt, that tells you visually that it's not smart. So what is smart? Think of smart as a person, right? Person, right, is smart. You have a brain. You can walk. You can talk. Think of a non-smart as a mannequin, right? So when you're walking in front of the you go to the department store and you see the display window, right? You can see the mannequins wearing the latest cool jacket or pants, right? Or cool hat. Think of the mannequins as non-smart, right? So we're the smart ones. The mannequins are the non-smart ones. So sometimes you're going to hear some of the old school designers, drafters, CAD designers, they're going to refer to this as non-smart or dumbed down geometry, which may be politically incorrect. That's the terms that it's been used. Okay, so we can just say non-smart. just like a mannequin. So it doesn't know its history. It doesn't know how it was created. The other ones don't have a red lightning bolt, so they have a history of how it was created. They have parents and maybe grandparents that were used to create the geometry, right? The surface, somehow it lost its link to its parents, so it doesn't have knowledge of self, just like a mannequin, right? All right, so let's go ahead and change also the color of this line. Okay, so we're going to go to bitangent and radius. And I think we are going to struggle with this one. Yeah, this is one of the areas where a lot of students have trouble with, including myself. Okay, so bitangent and radius. We're going to go to the bitangent and radius option. And we're going to create a circle tangent, right? Tangent, it only touches at one point. So we're going to create a circle tangent to the line. And we're going to use the point to reference the tangency location. Okay, so I think we should be able to do the first part. I think we may struggle with the second part. If I struggle, I'll just move on, right? I don't want you to go in circles if you get stuck or if I get stuck. All right, so let's go back. So we're going to draw a circle on this surface tangent to this line. Remember, tangency, it only touches at one point. Think of a wheel rolling, right? So if it's let's say a wheel made out of wood, or let's say it's a wheel made out of let's say a metal rim on a bike, and it's rolling on the pavement or on the sidewalk, it's only going to be touching at one point, right? Let's imagine if it was a rim with no thickness. It'll be touching at only one point. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a circle. And we're going to go down to bitangent and radius. All right, so let's see. It's asking, if we look down here on the bottom left, it's saying, hey, pick a curve or a point. All right, let me pick this line. Hopefully I'm doing this in the right order. I'm going to pick the line. What's the next element? On the bottom left, it says pick a curve or a point. So I'm assuming we're going to use this point, right, for our tangency location. There it is. And we're going to pick the surface as our support. And ta-da! This radius is too small, so let's increase the radius. And there it is. Beautiful, right? There it is. So we are creating a circle on this surface tangent to this line at this location. So our point is the location. Okay, so if you want to use the other circle, select that one. If you want to keep that one. Okay, and again, we can increase the radius and hit OK. And there's our bitangent and radius. Okay, let's move on to the next portion of it. You can check the trim element. Okay, so you can remove excess. I think we may get stuck in this part. If I spend way too much time on this one, I'll skip it. Okay, so we should be able to trim off any excess. Okay, so we should have that option. So let's go back to the circle. You can double click here or double click from the tree. Okay, so we have this option to trim. Oh, it's grayed out. Okay, so I don't know if it's a license issue or maybe we don't have the right geometry. Okay, so we don't have the option to trim excess. It doesn't allow me to select it, and I don't know if there's a way around this. No, I think we'll just have to move on to the next step. All right, so I'll just skip this portion and just leave it alone. So I'll just cancel. Let's move on to the next part of the tutorial. All right, so we tried, right? Not that I'm a quitter. It's just that we got stuck. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so bitangent and point. Okay, so we're going to use this geometry to create this circle, and it's going to be tangent, bitangent, meaning there's two tangencies, right? 1, 2. And hopefully we'll be able to trim off the excess. So if we want to trim off the bottom portion of the circle, we can also flip it so we keep the complementary part of the circle, its opposite side, right? And we're going to try and trim off the excess. And this should be our final result. So let's try it again. Let's see if we can accomplish it on this one. Okay, so let's hide this portion of it. Hide. And let's go to bitangent and point. And let's go with show. And let's look for it. Okay, there they are. Okay, so we're going to use these three curves, these splines. Let me go ahead and hit Control key, select them. So I select all three. Right click properties and let's make them green. Bright green so we can see them. And is there supposed to be a point here somewhere? Well, there's a point there somewhere. And I don't see it. Okay, so I don't see the point. Maybe it's floating in space and I can't see it. So I'm going to right click, reframe on. Oh, we're going to use this point. Okay, so let me hide this old geometry. There's the point. I couldn't see it. I think we're supposed to use that point. So let me go ahead and change the color. Okay, so there it is. All right, so we're going to put a circle in between these two curves, maybe even three curves in one of the later on in this tutorial. All right, so let's do a circle command once again. Circle command. And we're going to pick the next option. Bitangent. And then later we'll do tritangent with all three. All right. So let's do a bitangent with point. Let's try bitangent and radius. I think I skipped that by mistake. Let's try bitangent and radius. Okay, so let's go with circle. So once again, we are in the circle command. And let's pick our first element. Pick our second element. Okay, there it is. All right, so I'm creating a circle. If the radius is too small, watch what happens when I drop the radius. If it's too small, it'll probably give me an error message. Yep, there's the error message. Hit OK. It's telling me, hey, it's too small. So there it is, right? Okay, type in whatever number you like. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. And there's our bitangent circle. And we use the radius. Except here they want to use bitangent and point. So we'll use a point. Let's see if I skipped it by mistake. Oh, so here's bitangent and radius. Either I'm getting mixed up or the tutorial is off. Either way, let's move on. All right, so we created a circle using radius. Okay. Let's see if we can use that point that was down here. Oh, in this case, it's flipped 180. Here's the point, or maybe it's this one. Let's see what happens if we try and use a point per the instructions, bitangent and point. Let's see if it works. Okay, so let's go back and double click on it. And instead of a radius, we're going to go with bitangent and point. So now it's asking for a point. So I'm assuming it's this point. If that doesn't work, we'll try something else. Okay, so let's pick the point and see what happens. Okay, so go to the point area. Here it is, point. Pick the point. It's telling me nope, doesn't work. Okay, let me try a different point. Okay, let me try this point up here. Point. Ah, ta-da! It worked. So I got lucky. I gotta admit, it's not that I'm an expert, right? Got lucky. Okay, so here's what's happening. So I selected this point. So what it's doing, it's projecting that point onto this spline or arc, and using that as my tangency point. So it's projecting across, shortest distance between this point and this line. That's what's happening. Okay, so we don't have to define a radius. It's calculating its own radius. Okay, now hit OK. And there it is. So we were able to create a circle without using a radius. So once again, it took this point, projects it. It's the shortest distance to this curve, which happens to be at that point. And that's where the tangency occurred. And it just adjusts itself on this side to make it tangent without a point. All right, so now we're supposed to trim off. Let me double click. Okay, it's not giving me the option to trim. If it did, I could fill in these squares here and trim off the parts I don't want. Okay, so either it's because it's a student license. I'm pretty sure on campus, if you're using the computer lab, you should be able to trim. You can click the trim option and remove the parts you don't want. Okay, so I'm not able to. Maybe you may not be able to do it also because of the limits to this license. But let me see. Let me try Arc. See what happens when I go to Arc. Ah, there it is. Actually, I was wrong. Okay, so sorry for looking ignorant once again. So I can trim. So I have to pick the arc option. All right, so let's go to trim option and trim. And let's say preview. Notice it's trimming off the bottom portion of it. Okay, so hit OK and ta-da! Let's do it again. Double click. Okay, so the trim did light up. So I was either wrong or I was lying earlier, a few seconds ago. All right, so let's go to complementary arc. So it'll be the opposite side. Okay, so this time I should trim off these two areas and keep the bottom area, I believe. Preview. Preview. Oh, in this case, it's not. It went back gray. It grayed out again. Okay, so it's not giving me the option. I'm guessing. No, I'm not even going to guess. I'll just confuse you and confuse myself. Okay, let's go back to the other complementary arc. Or this one, it does allow us to trim. And okay. All right, so I'm not going to try and figure it out or lie to you as to what happened. But we got this far, and it's good enough for me. Hopefully, it's good enough for you. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to go ahead and actually, we're going to continue with this one. We're going to go with tritangent. Well, actually, we have a different geoset for tritangent. So we actually are done with this one. Let's turn on the tritangent. Oh, there it is. So it's the same as it was earlier, just in a different location. Okay, so we're going to do tritangent between these three lines. Okay, so if you looked at the tutorial, we're going to go with tritangent. And we're going to connect all three curves with the circle tangent with all three. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so circle command, circle. We're going to go to tritangent. There it is, tritangent, and pick our three elements. And if you want a full circle, click the full circle. And as you can see, it's tangent to all three curves. There it is, tritangent. So we don't need to define a radius. It calculates it on its own, so it does a fit where it ends up tangent to all three curves, meaning it only intersects at one point and not 2 points. All right, so let's hit OK. Okay, that looks good. Again, it's only intersecting at 1 point because it's tangent. Okay, so let's double click. Let's look at some more options. Let's go to complementary. There it is. Pick the other side. There it is. Go back to the other one. And here we are allowed to trim. So here, let's trim off the excess. And let's see what happens. I can't wait. The suspense. And hit OK. Bam! So it remove the excess. Okay, so now we have this beautiful curve, right? Goes from this curve to this one and so on. All right. So that's tritangent. And finally, we have center and tangent. I think we'll be done. Oh, we have this one still. Okay, so we're almost done. All right, so we're going to do center and tangent. So let's take a look at this one. So they're telling us, hey, we're going to use a center, a tangent, a support, and it should generate this circle. Okay, so I'm assuming when it says center and tangent, so the center element appears to be this line, meaning the center of the circle intersects through that line. It's going to be tangent to this line, and the plane is our support. Okay, so let's give it a try. All right, so let me hide this one. Go on to the next one. And there's the geometry right there. And once again, ugly colors. Good tutorials, just ugly colors. Hold on to the control key to select all three. I'm just going to change the color, right click properties, and I'll make them all green. And there we have it. Okay, so notice they are coplanar, all three. Share the same plane. All right, so we're going to use this line as our center. Let me rotate it so it looks more like the picture. I'm rotating it 180. There it is. Okay, so we're going to use the circle command, circle. And we're going to go to the center tangent, the last option. Okay, so we want a circle with the center that crosses this line. So here's our center element. So the center of the circle is going to lie on this line. And our tangent curve is this one. And our support, we don't need a plane. It recognizes that these two lines are planar, meaning they share the same imaginary plane. But just to play it safe, let's go ahead and select the plane for our support. Okay, so as you can see, the center of the circle is somewhere here. So it guarantees the center is on this line, and it's tangent to this line, and is on the support. And it calculates the radius. Well, actually, in this case, we can change the radius because the center point can slide along this line. So it's meeting all the parameters. The circle is tangent to the line. The center, even though we don't see it, lies on this line. And if we increase the radius, it should slide along. So let's increase the radius. And yes, there it is. It's sliding along. Pretty cool. While keeping the center of the circle on the line and staying tangent to this line. Let's decrease. See how far we can take it. Right? It seems to be able to go on forever. Oh, it came off the line, so it doesn't go on forever. So there's a point where it falls off the line. I thought it was going to extend it. It did not extend. I don't know if we have an extend option in this case. No, we don't. Okay, it's okay. Okay, so we're done with this part of the tutorial. And hit OK. And there's our line, or our circle. Okay, let's see. Let's open up the next one. Line tangent to curve definition. Line, so center and tangent, line tangent to curve definition. Let's show that one. Let's hide this one. Okay, it's this one. Here we go. It's this one. Okay, let's change the color. And it's hard to see the point, so let's make it yellow. All right, so let's try this out. I don't know what we're going to do yet, so let's look at the tutorial. Okay, so here it is. So using the same center and tangent option, the last option that we did for this previous one, we're going to now apply it to this one. Okay, so our center element, okay, so there's a center element. Looks like it's the point that's sitting on the surface. And we're going to pick this edge for our tangent. And we're going to use the surface as our support. So once again, we're going to pick the point on the surface as our center element, the edge as our tangent, and the surface as our support. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, let me look at the orientation. This looks correct. Okay, I think that's the orientation right there. All right, so let's go to circle command one more time. And for our center element, we're going to use this point. Okay, so make sure you're at the very bottom center tangent option. And let's pick the point. Okay, pick the edge for our tangent curve. Ta-da! And we're going to pick our surface as our support. Okay, so I assumed the center was up here and that it was going to project somehow, and I was wrong. That point is the center. Okay, it does look like the tutorial. Let's go back. Also, that's not the center element. They lied to us. This is the center element, the point that we actually selected. So it's just, oh, it's not mislabeled. I was just looking at the wrong arrow. So this orange arrow is for the circle. For the center element, if I zoom in, I'm going to hit Control and roll the wheel to zoom in. Whoa, too fast. Okay, so I was looking at the wrong arrow. I thought that this orange arrow was the leader for the center element. Turns out it's this red arrow. So we did pick the right point for our center, the surface as our support, and the white line as our tangent curve. Okay, yep, so it did work. So it's not mislabeled. I just need to get my eyes checked. All right, so let's continue on. Okay, so that looks right. Right, looks just like the picture on the tutorial. Hit OK. And there it is. All right, so we're done with this one. Let's go ahead and save it. File, save as. And I'll save it on my desktop folder for wireframe. And we're creating circles, and I'm going to save it with my initials, or you can type in complete or complete it and save. All right, so I'll upload it into YouTube. And if you want to follow the channel, right, to look at more videos, so if we go to the channel here, here are the latest videos. Go to the videos tab and it shows you all the videos, right, from the propeller to the box and the ones that we've been working on for this class session. Okay, so if you were watching the parallel curves tutorial, actually let's go to the first one, the axis tutorial. So if I go to this one of the earlier videos.
Welcome back.
Okay, so if you want to go to the channel, so if you're watching this video and now you want to check the other videos, go to the channel, right? If you want to subscribe, go ahead. I forgot how you do that, but I'm pretty sure you'll figure it out. Okay, so click on the channel. There it is. This is the Cat 37 Spring 2021 channel. Go to videos, and I'll keep adding more videos, right? And hopefully I'll keep them in order so they're easy to follow along, or to look from, I should say. All right, so end the video.